Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everyone's doing good. Another day, middle of the week. 2 more days until you get to sleep. That's the way I've been handling it, at least for me. Um, a small heads up. We just hit 8K a couple of days ago, which is a big deal for YouTube. That a channel like this one is finally starting to move, um, which is good. I'm happy for it. I'm here for it. We're going to be doing some um, adjustments now too. Now it's not. I'm not going away. Don't get ahead of yourself. I'm not stopping the program. There'll just be some because when you get to a certain point, you have to make sure that the algorithm doesn't swallow you up. So we're going to be doing some changes coming up here soon. Good ones, good changes, not bad changes. So just be prepped for it. Um, we will still maintain the same integrity. Let God do what He has to do. Let Him say what He has to say. And when you see it, you'll know. Um, of course, if it when it does start getting implemented, we'll give you some more info about it. But for now, just know that there are some things coming down the pike about how we're going to adjust um, show delivery and stuff like that. So, but then again, I said it's all good. Don't worry about it. We're not disappearing. No one's going anywhere. Um, you're not late, Arby. Not late at all. So, uh, disclaimer: I'm finding that I have to do this a lot. For the last couple of topics, I have to do a disclaimer. Um, what you are about to hear is a mix of what people who don't believe in God believe about Jesus, what people who do believe in God believe about Jesus, and finally, what the book says about Jesus. Okay, and hopefully, I can explain some things enough for people who do not believe to understand, at least, even if you still don't believe, at least you'll understand why you don't believe. I think it's essential that people know what they or know about what they hate so they can hate it properly, or know something about what they hate so they can stop hating it. I just think you need to be informed. That's all. So we're going to go through a couple of verses first and then um, try and break it down a little bit. Okay. The first one we'll be diving into is Isaiah 53. Now, before I go into this, I do understand that there are a certain class of people that believe that Isaiah 53 is not about Jesus. It's not a prophetic word. I get that you don't believe that. Um, you have the right to believe that. Um, however, um, for me, I do believe, based on what it said and what happened to Jesus, that it was a carbon copy of the man. Um, I don't subscribe to the concept that it's not about him. But if you believe it's not about him, I don't need to know why you don't believe it's not about him. You just don't believe it's not about him. That's fine. To each his own. But we're going to read it here on this platform and show why I believe that this is speaking about the person Jesus. Okay? Okay, good. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. Nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain, like one from whom people hide their faces. He was despised, and we held him in low esteem. We know about Jesus' humble beginnings. from the very get go. Um, no inn for him to be born in. There was no money in his family. Carpenter by trade. So there was no grandiosity about his beginnings. None. He wasn't. The only reference we have to him even coming into limelight was when he went to speak in front of the synagogue, and they were baffled by how a child of his age could know what he knew. But it was not something that they were like, "Oh, we need to put him in high esteem." It wasn't anything like that. Never happened. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. Now, if you've ever listened to um, Peter speak about these things, um, especially when the denial came up, um, Jimmy, here's what we're gonna do. I'll assist you real quick. So I understand that you are sent by who you got sent by. So here's what we're gonna do, Jimmy. So that you don't take up space in the room for no reason at all. I will help you out by exiting you from the room. Okay, it's I'm just trying to help you out so you don't have to hear this nonsense. I mean, this is absolute trash, right? He doesn't exist, so I'll help you out and I'll just exit you from this abomination and this ridiculous conversation. See how nice I am? I'm a really nice guy. Peter was of the assumption um, that he should not go through what he had to go through. Even though, yeah, it is beta, it is. Even though Jesus kept telling him that this must happen, the idea that it shouldn't was pervasively on Peter's lips because he considered that a bad thing. You wouldn't go through that. No, God wouldn't put you through that. And if he did do that, then it must be God striking, and that can't be good. Okay. So from so far, the events of this is being spoken about by Peter already, even in his denial of the request that Jesus gave him. He was pierced for our transgressions, and he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us turned his own way, and the Lord has laid upon him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and like a sheep before its shearers is silence. He didn't open his mouth. Factually happened with Jesus. By oppression and judgment, he was taken away, which he was. Um, Yet, who of his generation protested? No one. No one. No one protested for him. Everyone stood by. They just did. They may have wept, they may have screamed and cried, but they didn't. No one did anything. For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people, he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, he was, and with the rich in his death, which he was, the tomb of Simon. And though he had done no violence, nor any deceit was found in his mouth. Now, again, you can read all this and ascribe it to someone else. All power to you. However, if you were to look at the time this was written and you match it, it's almost like a tracing paper, like I mentioned before, and you put it over Jesus' life, it is exactly what happened in every single facet. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. Remember when he was in the garden, He was in the garden and he said, "Not my will, but your will. If there be any way for this to pass, let it pass, but not my will, but your will." It says it again. It was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. We are the offspring. And the days of Christ were not his life, but the effects of his life after death. His days. And the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand, and it has. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied, which he was. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, which he has, and he will bear their iniquities, which he did. Therefore, I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils amongst the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors, for he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Within the time of that 3.5 years that Jesus did his ministry, every one of those statements took place. Now, let's deal with some conspiracy folks. Let's say that he convinced and coerced a whole bunch of people, 12 of them, to back his story up. And they proceeded to try and do things to make it look like they were fulfilling scripture. If that were the case, why were they fishermen? They are brilliant, okay? They have to know all the works, they have to know all the prophecies. They would have to know every one of them to the point of having them memorized and find ways to get it done. They would have to be very brilliant people. Why would they be fishermen? Secondly, what kind of coercion would Jesus have to use to convince these 12 to pull this off? Again, I'm being a conspiracy theorist of people who don't believe in Jesus, okay? Don't want nobody coming for me telling me I don't believe in Jesus. If you knew anything about the channel, you'll understand differently, okay? They would have to be some really smart individuals. Something tells me that was not their charge, not their station. So I don't see how you could pull that off. Remember, you have to go back 7, 8, 900 years of research and knowledge. You would have to be a rabbi, a member of the synagogue, every day dedicating your life and time to knowing exactly what prophecy was saying for the Messiah. You would have to know it all. You would have no time to be a fisherman. So I would kind of put that conspiracy side to rest. So we have a prophecy of the man, Jesus. We have that prophecy laid out in Isaiah 53. Now, when we go to John 1, we have another statement about who was coming. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot comprehend it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not the light, but was sent to bear witness to that light. That was the true light, which lighted every man that comes into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them he gave the power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe in his name. Now, we know about Genesis 1. We know about God hovering over and the Word being there, and he was there in the beginning, and the Word and God were one. And now we're hearing that the Word became flesh and dwelled among us in the person that people called Jesus. We're going to be getting into some territory here now that some people will take as me not knowing what I'm talking about, which is fine. But I want to remind people that I'm breaking this down for people who do not see Jesus for who he was. Okay? Just understand that. When we jump over to Matthew 16, verse 13. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he said to his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." Now, many miss this whole section here. These people aren't saying that he is like them. The people around the town were not saying that Jesus was like any of these people. He's not like John the Baptist. He's not like Elijah, and he's not like Jeremiah. He is John the Baptist. He is Elijah, and he is Jeremiah the prophet, meaning that he came back from this is an ancient character that came back to live among us. This is what people were saying at the time. But what about you? He asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter, always being Mr. Impulsive, answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." Many will take that line, and they have, including the Catholic Church, to mean that Peter, because his name means rock, was the foundation on which Jesus was going to build his church. Factually incorrect, lie, untrue, not what it meant. It meant this: he's going to build his church upon that statement that he is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Why? Because then flesh and blood would have related to them. He had just finished asking them, "Who people say I am?" They said, "Peter, who do you say I am?" You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Perfect. And you didn't get that from people. You got that straight from my Father. Do not go telling people, I am the Messiah. Let God reveal that to them. I will go about doing my Father's work, and my Father will reveal it to them. And when they have gotten it, they would know they would have gotten it not from man's mouth, not from anyone else, not from flesh and blood, but from my Father. Now, for the crowd of people who don't quite know how the Jesus thing works, I want to try and break it down for you the most simple way I can. And I hope at the end of it, I pray at the end of it, that it makes at least a little sense so that when you do say you don't believe, you have a reason to not. And if you do say you do believe, you have a reason to. Okay. Jesus was indeed born a human child. He was indeed encased in human existence. His nature was God. Who he was outside of the flesh was God. No one saw God when they saw Jesus. They saw Jesus. I want people to understand that. They only saw Jesus. They did not see God because no one has seen God. When he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, what you're seeing is the nature. Everything I do because my nature is my Father's nature. The Father meaning God, who made it possible for the person, Jesus, to come into existence and be able to house himself in the person of Jesus. In order that the original nature that was supposed to be Adam be reconstituted, the perfect person that he created is now the second person he created in Jesus to be perfect and fulfill the punishment that was due to Adam when he said, death will be your portion. The punishment for all mankind because of Adam was death. The only way for that to be fulfilled was for the same person to be put to death, the perfect one, originally Adam. The perfect has to be put to death, the unblemished, which is why they did every sort of sacrifice with unblemished animals. They found the purest, the first, the cleanest to sacrifice as a example of what should have been done. It was only an atonement. That's all it was. It was just to an appeasement level, those sacrifices. The ultimate payment of it was in the person of Jesus. The ultimate payment of it was in the person Jesus. Because God himself encased himself in human form so that the sacrifice of that form would be fulfilling the punishment due to that form. Let's just be honest. God has nothing to atone for. Nothing. He does not need to be sacrificed for anything. He is perfect. The punishment is on us. And he decided God himself, decided that he would step in our place. And the only way to do that was to sacrifice the one thing that needed to be put to death that was guilty, the flesh. But you can't do that if the nature of the flesh is pervasive in the spirit and soul. So you had to have something that was perfect in spirit, defiled in flesh, to be put to death. How do you do that? How do you do that? You have to be the perfect one encased in the fallen to put the fallen to death to quantify the punishment. Jesus. Jesus. The reason why he is the in, the door, the gate, the pass through is because in order for you to participate in that nature has to become your nature. You yourself have to put down your old nature that he sacrificed on the cross. You're back again. Block. Bye. You have to put that away. That is for you to put away. You step into the sacrifice that was done so that when God sees you, he is no longer seeing the fallen, he is seeing the risen. You want to know why you can be perfect and how? Because of the nature life that you pick up. Jesus came for a specific purpose, and it's why he was called the Lamb. He was called the Lamb, the perfect Lamb, because all of the inferences before then, lambs, bulls, goats, all of it, as pure as they were, unblemished, untouched, they had to be an archetype of what was to come. And he was the end of all sacrifice because there was no longer a need for it. The punishment that was on mankind was fulfilled in the death of Jesus. Why is he such a pivotal, huge, monumental piece to your walk? Because he is the walk. You don't continue in a walk, you die. The only access you have to the kingdom is via death. So, who was Jesus? 100% God, 100% man. The reason why you can't see God when you look at Jesus is because it was not meant for you to see God. You are meant to see Jesus. No one has seen God, but he was indeed Jesus. By the very nature, otherwise, his sacrifice would be an absolute wash. Listen carefully, if any trace of wrongdoing in his core spirit, soul, being was found, the sacrifice would be annulled. There was no way he could atone for any sin of anyone if his nature was sinful. Mankind's nature is sinful, not just the flesh. Your nature is. By nature, because of Adam, all of it is fallen. By nature, Jesus was flawless, perfect. And that was the only combination that could save mankind permanently. A sinless nature in a fallen flesh being sacrificed. Only way it could happen. If you look at all of the sacrifices throughout the history of the Bible, you will see the kind of animal they had to use. And they always mentioned no blemish, no flaw, nothing wrong with it. But they still sacrificed the flesh because the atonement's in the blood. But it was just a appeasement, because a true sacrifice for mankind would have to be mankind. The obedience of doing a sacrifice was definitely that was needed. It was needed. Again, another clown. We're going to block every last one of them. I'm not having any time with you people today. That's like I said, if you don't believe, don't believe. I don't need to hear why you don't believe. I don't need to hear your explanation about why you don't believe. Just don't believe and continue doing you. It's that simple. I I think I said this at the very beginning. I don't see how this is difficult for you people. I mean, I get why it's difficult, but I don't understand why you need to make it that difficult. What I'm speaking here today is for people who want to listen to first and then speak. Not speak and not listen. Like I said at the beginning, at least you'll hear why. And if you still disagree with it, fine. That's on you. That's fine. But to talk out of turn before you even hear everything, that tells me that you're not listening. So I don't know why you're here. Okay? No blemish, no flaw, and the fault, because you have to be dwelling in God and God is not physical, the sacrifice has to be one of nature. It has to be one of nature. And that's exactly what occurred. The Word was with God, the Word was God. If we believe the book, look, if we believe the book, we should believe the book. We should believe the book. What we like to do, though, is this: we take our mankind type reasoning and apply it to God by telling him he can't do certain something. It's just not possible. He can't. No way. There's no way God could be in heaven and still be here. I guess just the statement that he's omnipresent is wrong then. God can indeed and did, via the word in flesh, come to dwell among us. And it was the only possible way that any atonement could be done on our behalf in a permanent manner. There is no other way. There is no way that Jesus could just be a man, and sacrifice himself for the whole of mankind. It wouldn't have been possible. It is not possible because by nature, the very nature of man, it can't happen. You need the perfect. You need the perfect. And no man was, but God is. If no man is perfect, hear me out. If no man is perfect, what did Jesus get sacrificed for? How could his sacrifice be an atonement for anything if he was just a man and no man is perfect? Somewhere in there, the perfect and the imperfect, had to collide, gel, die, and separate. He had to encase himself in the thing that needed to be put to death to appease and atone for what was done by Adam. This is the point where the unbeliever separates himself from the believer. This is where choice comes in. This is where the persuasion either happens or doesn't. It is either too far fetched to believe, or it's not far fetched at all and you can believe it. But here's the flip side to that. If you don't believe, okay. And if you do believe, praise God. I don't need to browbeat you for not believing in God. I simply have to leave you, let you not believe. I don't need to coerce you. I don't have to threaten you. I don't have to manipulate. If you don't believe, okay, then stay in your lane, not believing. Here's a problem with people who don't believe. They don't believe, and their main goal in life is to get you to not believe too because they need company. Jesus, on the other hand, told you the complete opposite of what to do. If they don't believe, dip. He makes it so easy for you. This is how simple God makes Christianity for people. This is why I don't necessarily believe in the apologetic side of Christianity. I don't need to contend with people who don't believe about belief. I don't. I don't need to persuade Jack. I don't. I simply tell you, if you don't believe it, you don't believe it. If I tell you because God said so is not enough and you want more, sorry, can't help you there. I cannot help you if you want more than God. And if you want to take God and put him in a box that you feel comfortable with, feel free to do that. Again, it doesn't change his nature, it doesn't change who he is, and it doesn't change anything about him. But you can feel free to do what you got to do. I don't have to persuade you. I don't have to coerce you. I don't have to force you. If you don't want God, okay. If Jesus ain't it, okay. If the Holy Spirit don't exist, okay. Okay. But for those seeking, they will find. And for those knocking, the door would be opened. Too many people protest outside the gates of God. They love to protest outside the house of God. They're not going to knock and they're not going to ask any questions of the one in the house. They stay out the house and they hold their picket sign saying, "You don't exist. You don't exist. You don't exist. We don't need you. We don't need you." That's what all they do outside. They have never met, spoken to, encountered anything to do with the person that they're protesting. But they love to protest. And as soon as someone walks out of there, "You can believe that nonsense? What are you doing in that building? He don't exist. He don't." They love doing that. Until the door opens mid-service one day and they hear something and some one of them says, "I had not heard that before." He drops his picket sign and he walks inside. And now they start to protest one of their former members. "He doesn't, how can you leave us? He don't exist. He don't exist." If he doesn't exist, why are you protesting? If none of it is true, what are you riling against? You don't see people protesting Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny because they don't exist. I don't need to waste my time in protesting that. What? Come on. He said to go, preach it, and be done. The word is effective. It's sharper than any two-edged sword. It can cut anything. It don't need you to cut. It does the cutting. You might wield it, but you don't do any of the cutting. The word does that. You don't save anyone. God does that. You don't breach walls. God does that. That's for God to do. You're the vessel to deliver. That's all you are. You're UPS. All you are is UPS. People know you're UPS by the car you drive and by the outfit you wear. They know the UPS truck is coming. You're UPS. You have a package. Your only job is to take the package onto the car, drive. People know a package is coming. You drop it off, leave. You don't need to stand there and watch the person open the package and get happy for the pack. You don't need to know any of that. You are simply the delivery. That's it. I used to work as a home security installer. I did that for 6, 7 years. And we had a company vehicle. Everybody knew what the vehicle meant to the neighborhood. It meant somebody was getting a security system. They didn't know if they were getting glass break devices. They didn't know if they were getting motion detectors. They didn't know if they were getting door alarms. They didn't know if they were getting ring cameras. They didn't know anything, but they did know they were getting home security. And on occasion, I would be driving through the neighborhood. And by the way, we were allowed to do sales as well, not just install. People would stop me and ask me what the cost was for home security. And I would tell them the cost. And you know what they would have to decide? If the cost of having home security was worth it. They had to weigh what they had in their homes, the loss of that thing versus home security, and being alerted to when someone was trying to take it from them. They had to weigh this. I could go on a tangent for hours with them and tell them the benefits of all the parts. And you know what I could also do in that process? Inundate them with so much mess that they decide not to do it because it was too much for them. It was too much. I went into so much detail that they got turned off right then and there from getting the home security, regardless of whether they needed it. They didn't want it no more. Too much. Too much info. And all I had to say was, we offer home security. We'll secure your doors, secure your home, and alert you when someone breaks in. That's all I have to say. If you want more detail than that, once you've made a decision about having it, we can go into detail. But the decision has to be made before I inundate them with all sorts of ridiculous mess. Not that the parts themselves are ridiculous because they have a great purpose, but the person has not even decided whether or not that's for them. That's the first thing they have to do, which is why you present it. And if they don't want it, you don't go any further. Dust off. What do you do? Home security installation. Oh, I don't think I need home security. Okay, cool. I have a job to get to. You think about that, and I'm out. That's it. That's what I started doing. Oddly enough, when I started doing that, more people came to the house I was installing at to leave a phone number for me to call them to set up an appointment to install. And that became my new MO for selling. All I did was tell them, yeah, this person down here is getting it. We install home security systems. What does that entail? Well, it's quite complicated, but let's just say when someone breaks in your home, you'll have enough stuff to cover it and you won't have to worry. We'll at least alert you to something going on. That's it. That's all I had to tell them. But in the meantime, I have to get to these guys. They're waiting for me. They've already committed to having one. I'm going to go install it for them. If you have any other questions and how it works out, you can always ask them, though. They're like, no, no, when you're done, can you come by? Yeah, sure. I'll come by. I'd go by and I'd do the same thing again. I'd say, hey, this is what it does. Do you want it or not? This is the cost. The cost can vary if you add more stuff at the time of installation, but if this was my house, this is what I would cover. I don't try to pile a whole bunch of doctrine on them because we can end up doing that and thinking that what we say is the saving grace. It is not. The word can do that itself. The laws of the Lord are perfect, reviving the soul. It's more precious than gold, sweeter than honey. The word itself, not my interpretation of it, not my delivery of it, the word itself, by its what? Nature is that way. I don't have what it takes to make the word of God more impactful. I don't. My life could be an example, perfect. But even people will see your life and still not believe. Why? They could see, they can see you going from being a most horrible person to one of the most genuine persons, and they still will not believe because they themselves have not encountered the reason for your change. Your change can pique their interest a lot, but until they have met with the reason for your change, there's nothing you can do. So, what is your job? Tell them what changed you, not how, not in detail. I encountered God. What does that mean? Man, all I can tell you is I encountered God one on one, and He changed me. And you just direct them to change. You don't tell them they have to stop this, stop that. You know who does that? God does. Jesus was not a good teacher. He was the Word made flesh. Remember, he said when someone called him good, right? Why are you calling me good? It wasn't that he's saying he wasn't good. He wanted to know their reasons, their justification for calling him good. Why am I good? In your mind, why am I good? Am I good because of what you think I'm saying? How nice I am? Why am I good? Remember, no man is good. He's telling you right there that he's no ordinary man. No man is good. So why am I good? The same way he asked Peter, who do people say I am? There's only one facet in which God became man, and that was in the person Jesus. And there's only one reason that the man Jesus was God was because the nature himself was God. That's how it works. Take for instance my son. Okay, I have one of the four who, if I were to say it was me replicated, I do have a son that's replicated. All of the others have their own personalities, yeah. But this one, this Negro is me. This little guy is me. When I say, I don't mean me from a child, I mean me now. This little guy is me. If you wanted to know who I was, you look at this little kid, carbon copy. Carbon copy. I would even say an enhanced carbon copy. The same um, fascination I had with music, this kid has. Same fascination with art, this kid has. Same ability to speak to adults, this kid has. It is crazy, but it's my nature that's in him. My nature was passed on to him, and you can see it in spades. Put that 15 billion fold, and you'll get a glimpse of what it means to have God's nature in someone, and you'll have Jesus. And that same life, that exact same life that Jesus lived and died to pass on, is what he's handing off to his people. It is a perfect life. It is a life where God sees you as atoned, sees you as one of his, and guilt free. That is the life of Christ that we have to live. It is not my person that stands before God guiltless. It is the life of Christ that stands that way. And I have entered into that life so that when he sees me, he is really seeing his son, in whom he was well pleased. I don't need man's okay to believe this. I don't need to get the approval of man to believe this. I don't have to get people to sign and co sign with me to believe this. Anyone can disbelieve this all they want. That's fine by me. Call me crazy if you want. Fine by me. Call me whatever you want. But what I see written and what I see enacted in my life are one and the same. I had told you about that song, I Am Not Who I Was. You can't be who you were once you've entered into that life. You are now his. And if that means I'm insane, more power to me. I will stay insane. I will gladly stay bat crazy. I'm good with that. So good with that, you wouldn't believe how good with that I am. Because here's the thing: if I'm right, if I'm wrong, all I did was live a life worthy of the calling. I can't complain with either outcome. Suppose there is no heaven. Okay. What am I losing out on? Nothing, because there's nothing after that. Nothing after death. So I'm not losing anything. In fact, if not, then I come back as another person in a reincarnation. I know exactly what I can and can't do next time. There's no downside to living for God. None. There's no downside to giving your life to Christ. None. I mean, people might hate you. Not they're people, man. Come on. They don't get to decide the future you have. They don't get to decide your eternal salvation. They don't have that power. So why are they concerning you? Which is why I told you in the beginning, the reason I titled this The Man Called Jesus was simply because people consider him a mere man. I had read this to you before, but I really need to drive this particular statement home because it makes so much sense. And I know there are some who have their issues with Mr. Lewis, Mr. C.S. Lewis, that is. But if you've ever read any of his books, any of them, including the Chronicles of Narnia, the Silver Chair, all of it, if you ever read Screw Tape Letters, and any of them, you will see one main thread that he never lets go of in all of his writings. He understood, coming from a position of not believing, that what he encountered could not be a lie. You want to know what it looks like to have someone run headlong, going 150,000 miles an hour straight into God? Look at C.S. Lewis. He went from, I do not believe this man, I don't believe anything about it, and I'll prove it, to running headlong into that was all he spoke about till the day he died. So think what you want about him. But for him, but for him, he ran headlong into God. And nothing could persuade him otherwise from that point on. No one could tell him that God wasn't real. No one could tell him anything to dissuade him from God. Not a soul to the day he passed. This was one of the most my favorite thing he's ever said. Okay, and this was in a book I read often when I want to read. I don't like reading, but I will read. I used to love reading, but not anymore. Not that I can't, but when I need to, I will. Mere Christianity, great book. Um, the title, don't let the title throw you off, because there's nothing trivial about Christianity, which is why he called it Mere Christianity. Okay, that's why he called it Mere Christianity, because there's nothing mere about it. This was the line here. Okay, this is me, so I can get a little bigger for you to see. Is that a little better? Yeah, that's a lot better. I'm trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him, that is Christ. They say this, okay? I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who is merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with a man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make a choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, and you could spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come up with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. He did not intend to. He even said it. Why do you call me a good? Either you believe my goodness is of something else or not. It can't be because I'm human, because no man is good. So pick one. Pick one. Or don't. That's the beauty of your choice. Here's also the scary part of your choice is that you could be wrong. But you have that option. You have the option to either follow, don't follow, believe, or don't believe. and live like it. You have the right to live like it. Pick. Tomorrow, I don't have a topic yet, although I have one that's ruminating around my head that's been trying to find a spot to land, but it keeps leaving and I can't get it back sometimes. So until he solidifies it, I'm not going to write anything down or commit to it because, like I said, it keeps floating in and floating out. Um, and it kind of had to do with the topic today a little bit. Um, but like I said, my memory is not the most efficient for me sometimes, and so um, sometimes I'll remember and sometimes I won't. But the things I do need to fully remember, he lets stay, and usually if it's not something that needs to stay, he gets rid of it. So this may or may not be one that he wants to emphasize. So when he makes it stick, it'll stick. I'm not going to try and force it to stay there. When it if it pops back up and he says that's it, then that'll be it. So um, I'm thinking about a Friday Q&A again. Um, I will set up a poll on my um, YouTube page for the Q&A to see how many people are um, behind that. Um, but as for tomorrow, I just don't know yet. So that's still floating in the air. Today is a free for all for Savage Patriots. We don't have a set topic. Everyone's coming. It will be kind of like the Saturday event, except that I don't know what any of them are coming with, and they don't. None of us know what the other one is coming with. So it's going to be a surprise for everyone. So tune into that one. That should be fun. I don't have anything to talk about. I'm just letting them three. I'm just there to kick people back into the rings. Scrolling down below, your options for helping God's ministry, not mine, his. Um, yeah, hey, look, when this has been happening to me for so long that I can't even tell you how often that happens to me. They tell me that people keep saying, "Oh, it comes from age." Nah, nah. Um, I can tell you what. Where is that question? Oh, there's a question. Um, it fell apart a little bit. Um, we the older heads uh, kind of left things to the younger minds to see their true interest. And in all honesty, um, it is very difficult for people like Corey and I to find people who are as committed to this venture. And so it's been difficult to find people with the same zeal, the same work ethic, the same willingness to put in time, the same willingness to go out on a limb to do stuff. They're not many out there like that. And so when you're tested and you test one to see what their commitment level is, you get kind of the result you're not hoping for, but you do get a result. And so it's kind of been put not away, but on the back burner for now because we need to have what zeal we put in, both Corey and I can speak for Corey on this one. Um, I know I can. We want people to match our enthusiasm for things. We want the zeal to be there on their behalf as much as ours. We don't want to be the legs only. Sometimes we want people to be the other leg, an arm, and not just clothing. A lot of people just want to be clothing. We need body parts. We need body parts. Functional with their own role, but it's hard to find anymore. It really is. It's hard to find ones that have not just the zeal, but the ability too. So it's kind of just put for now on the back burner. Um, and so I just both Corey and I put in a lot of work on different fronts. We put in work, and the kind of work we put in, not many people want to put in. And I can say that proudly because I know what I do, and I know what Corey does. I know what the guys on the mix do, and I knew what they didn't do. Hence where it is now. And I knew what guys on Savage Patriots do. I know Bro puts in his work. I know Coy puts in his work, and I know that Jay Lee puts in their work. I know what they do. If I ask for something, I get research brought to the table without hesitation. These guys jump right on it. They match it. It's very hard to find though, and so that is why it's no longer around. Okay, at least for now. It may change. It may change. But we will be on Savage Patriots today. Again, free for all. Um, and I'll put up the question Q&A thing sometime today. My last statement about this this topic. Everyone has to make a decision about their life. You can either make that decision informed or uninformed. And you can make that decision out of a place of love or not. And that's completely up to you. For you believers out there, you don't need to browbeat anyone to believe God. Either they do or they don't. And if they don't, family or fair weather friends. Look, both Corey and I had to do this with our own family members, our sons. We had to give up control. We wanted to coerce, we wanted to bring in to wrangle, and we could not. And we had to learn, unfortunately, the hard way, both of us. God's the only one that can do this. And we relinquished our children to God. And God did what he had to do. Dust off your feet. Move on. If they accept you, they accept you. If they don't, they don't. It really is that simple. You don't need to try and force this information on anybody. Okay? So hopefully this helped somebody understand the dynamic of what happened in the life that we know of Jesus and the correlations and all that stuff that hopefully it made sense to somebody that didn't have a true understanding before. um I hope. But as usual, what you heard, you know who to take it to. Don't just take my word for anything. You go and take it back to the king and commander. Take it back to God. He's the only one that can make things clear. Okay? He's the only one that can make it clear. Not me. Him. Him. Period. Point blank. All right. So we'll see you guys on Savage Patriots later today. Um, okay. Good. Good to know. Good to know, Teresa. Congrats on being angry. Um, you need a what? a hug or confirmation. Okay, so you've been angry for you spend your whole year angry at somebody? A whole year? Seems like a waste of a year. I mean, honestly. Meanwhile, the rest of us are watching people ignore the Constitution, so I'm pretty sure it's gone. So, I mean, I'm just saying, so. Just in a whole year. Wow. Well, there could be worse things you could spend your time on, I guess. There's worse things you could spend your time on, I guess. I don't know. Wow, whole year. Man. I mean, I've been mad at people for a couple of months, but a year? Wow. In any case, we'll catch you guys on the flip side about 6:30 Eastern on the Savage Patriots. Keep your eye open for tomorrow morning. Like I said, may or may not be there, but just in case I am, keep an eye out for it. I see Corey, he is here. I see Corey's in the room, but he ain't saying nothing. He just dropping links. But you better say something. At least you're not calling. At least you're not. At least he's not on the phone interrupting the show by trying to call me while I'm doing my show. That's what he normally does. Like clockwork. But he is dropping a link to something that I did record earlier. And it has a lot to do with this. Okay, so when I'm done here, he's on my channel talking. Oh, that guy, I tell you. I promise you we're family. I just don't know how yet. I have to do a DNA test to see, because I sincerely, honestly, look, I don't claim many people in my family, but I'm telling you, that dude is related to me somehow. He has to be related to me somehow. There's no other explanation. This Negro is related to me. This Negro is related to me. Okay, he is. Anyway, go check out the link. And make sure you go check it out. It's a good video. I haven't seen it yet. Now, he called me about it. He said, man, that was good. And I was like, I can't remember half the stuff I said. In fact, I couldn't remember anything I said in the video. So I'm going to go watch it myself, because I totally forgot what it was I said. Because like I told you, I don't come here to speak for me. I just don't. And I'm being completely honest, I don't remember half the stuff I say. I have to go back and listen to it myself. So just so y'all know. Love y'all. Have a grand rest of the day. And we'll catch you guys later on this week, and especially at 6:30 this afternoon on Savage Patriots. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself.